The first time I saw my wife's face lose its color, she wasn't looking at me. She was looking at a stranger in a coffee shop who had said 6 words that should have meant nothing. "Your account is still frozen, right?" The man had been talking to someone behind me. I almost ignored it. Almost. But Jasmine Martin stopped breathing for a second. Not a dramatic pause. Not the kind people notice in movies. The kind that happens when someone hears a door open that they were certain was locked. I turned around, expecting to see a misunderstanding, a coincidence, anything that would explain why my wife, the woman who had shared my home for 11 years, suddenly looked like she had been caught somewhere she wasn't supposed to be. The stranger noticed me looking, then he walked away, and Jasmine immediately said, "Connor, don't talk to him." That was the moment I knew something was wrong. Because Jasmine had never been afraid of strangers. She had always been the calm one. The person who could walk into a room full of people and make everyone feel comfortable. She remembered birthdays, brought extra food to neighbors, and knew exactly what to say when someone was hurting. That was the woman I married. But that afternoon, standing in a coffee shop with a stranger disappearing through the door, I saw another version of her, a version I had never met. Before that day, my life looked ordinary from the outside. Maybe too ordinary. I was 42, working as a project manager for a construction company. I wasn't wealthy, but I was stable. I liked stability because I grew up without much of it. My father left when I was 12. He didn't disappear completely, but he became the kind of person who was always about to come back. I spent years believing promises were things people made when they wanted you to stop asking questions. That was probably why I valued Jasmine so much. She made life feel predictable. When we got married, she told me, "I don't need a perfect life. I just want one where we don't have to be scared all the time." I believed her. We built a home slowly. We bought a small house. We planned for the future. We talked about retirement, vacations, and one day helping our children if they needed us. Jasmine handled most of our finances. At first, that made sense. She was organized, she loved spreadsheets, she enjoyed tracking expenses in a way I found exhausting. Every month she would sit at the kitchen table with her laptop and say things like, "We're actually doing better than we think," and I trusted her. That trust became my biggest weakness. The strange things started small. A bank statement arrived and Jasmine took it from the mailbox before I could see it. She laughed when I asked why. "Because it's boring, Connor. You don't want to spend your evening looking at numbers." Maybe she was right. Then she started getting phone calls that stopped when I entered the room. Then came the password changes. "Security update," she said. Then the missing emails. Probably spam. Every explanation was reasonable. That was the problem. Nothing was obviously wrong. Nothing gave me permission to be suspicious. Until the coffee shop. After we left, I asked Jasmine about the stranger. She became irritated immediately. "Why are you making something out of nothing?" "I didn't say I was." "You looked at him like you thought I knew him." "Because you reacted like you did." She stared at me, then she smiled. Not a real smile, the kind people use when they are trying to end a conversation. "You're tired, that's all." I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. Because the alternative meant admitting I had spent years loving someone I didn't fully know. A week later, I received a letter. It wasn't addressed to Jasmine, it was addressed to me. The envelope came from a financial company I didn't recognize. Inside was a notice about a missed payment, a large missed payment. My name was on the account. I had never opened it. When I asked Jasmine, she didn't answer immediately. That scared me more than anything. Finally, she said, "I was going to tell you. People say that sentence when they are already too late." "Tell me what?" She looked down. "There were some investments." "What investments?" "Nothing dangerous." "Jasmine." She became defensive. "I was trying to help us." That sentence stayed with me because people say I was trying to help when they know the truth would sound worse. Over the next few days, I started looking, not because I wanted to catch my wife, because I wanted to prove I was wrong. I checked documents, emails, old statements, and every answer created another question. The money hadn't disappeared in one moment. It had leaked away quietly. Small transfers, different accounts, different names, a pattern hidden inside ordinary life. The first twist came when I discovered Jasmine hadn't been spending the money on herself. There were no luxury purchases, no expensive clothes, no secret vacations. For a moment, I felt ashamed for doubting her. Then I found the real reason. She had been sending money to a former business partner named Daniel. Years earlier, before we met, Jasmine had invested in a company with him. The company failed. Daniel blamed himself. Jasmine blamed herself. And apparently, she had spent years trying to fix something that was already gone. When I confronted her, she finally broke. I couldn't just leave him. Why? Because when everyone walked away from him, I was the only person who didn't. But you used our money. I thought I could recover it. How much? She didn't answer. That silence was the answer. The number was far worse than I imagined. Almost everything we had saved. The house wasn't lost yet, but our future was. I asked her why she never told me. She whispered, "Because I knew you would see me differently." And the painful part was that I understood. I did see her differently, not because she made a mistake, because she chose to let me live inside a lie. I thought that was the whole truth. I was wrong. 2 days later, Daniel contacted me. I expected him to apologize. Instead, he said something that changed everything. "Connor, you need to ask your wife why she was protecting me." I froze. "What does that mean?" He hesitated. Then he sent me a file. Inside were documents showing Jasmine hadn't just invested in Daniel's failed company. She had taken control of its remaining assets. The money wasn't simply lost, she had been hiding where it went. I confronted her that night. She sat silently at the kitchen table, the same table where she used to organize our finances. The money wasn't gone, was it? Her eyes filled with tears. "I was going to fix it." "Where is it?" She couldn't answer. Then she finally said, "I moved it because I was afraid." That wasn't the answer I expected. She explained that after the business collapsed, she discovered Daniel had been dishonest with investors. She believed exposing him would destroy several families, including ours, because my name had become connected to some paperwork. So she tried to recover the losses quietly. But when the recovery failed, she kept hiding. Every lie started as a temporary solution. Every temporary solution became another lie. I wanted to hate her, but hatred was too simple. She had betrayed me. She had also spent years terrified of losing everything. Both things were true. The final truth came out 3 months later, not because I exposed Jasmine, because someone else did. The financial company launched an investigation after multiple complaints connected to Daniel's old business. During the investigation, they discovered Jasmine had actually protected several investors by moving records and preserving evidence against him. The woman everyone thought was part of the fraud had secretly helped uncover it. But there was one problem. She had also committed financial violations by hiding information and moving money without approval. The truth was impossible to explain in one sentence. Jasmine wasn't the villain I imagined. She wasn't innocent either. At the hearing, everything became public. Friends found out, family found out. People who had admired Jasmine for years watched her reputation collapse. Some called her brave. Others called her a fraud. Both sides were wrong. The hardest moment wasn't losing the money. It was hearing strangers argue about my wife as if they knew her, because I knew something they didn't. I knew the woman who stayed awake at night worrying about everyone. I knew the woman who destroyed my trust while trying to save something she couldn't save. I knew the woman who loved me and still hurt me. In the end, I walked away. Not because I stopped caring, because caring about someone doesn't erase what they did. Our family split quietly. No dramatic goodbye, no final angry speech. Just two people sitting in a house that suddenly felt like it belonged to strangers. The last time I saw Jasmine, she was standing near the kitchen table, packing the same place where she once planned our future. She looked at me and said, "I wish I had told you the first day." I believed her. That was the worst part. Years later, people still ask me whether Jasmine was the victim or the person who caused the damage. I never know how to answer, because the truth was more painful than either version. The person I trusted most was also the person who kept the biggest secret from me. And the strangest thing about betrayal is that sometimes the person who breaks your heart is the same person who was trying, in their own broken way, to protect it. The folder was not supposed to fall open. That is the detail I still remember. Not the shouting, not the tears, not the moment my father looked at me like I was no longer his daughter. The folder. A thin brown folder sliding from the kitchen cabinet, landing on the floor, opening to a page that should never have existed. And when Sophia picked it up, she did not scream. She simply looked at my father and asked one question. Kevin, who is Isabella Delaney? My father went completely silent, and that silence told us more than any answer could have. For years, I believed my family was complicated but honest. I knew we had scars, I knew we had difficult conversations, but I believed the people sitting around our dinner table were the same people they appeared to be. I was wrong. Sophia was my stepmother. She entered my life when I was old enough to remember losing people. My mother had passed away when I was young, and after that, my father became someone who existed physically but disappeared emotionally. He worked late. He avoided conversations. He convinced himself providing money was the same as providing love. Then Sophia arrived. At first I hated her, not because she did anything wrong, because she represented change. She was proof that my father was willing to build something new after everything we had lost, and I was still angry that he could move forward when I felt stuck. Sophia never forced herself into my life. She never said, "I'm your mother now." She just showed up. She remembered my favorite birthday cake. She left messages when I had exams. She sat beside me during difficult family dinners where nobody spoke. Slowly, without realizing it, I started trusting her. That was the cruelest part. The person who discovered the truth was the person who had worked hardest to make our family feel whole. My father, Kevin Mercer, was charming. That was always his greatest strength. People believed him because he made everything sound simple. When Sophia asked about his strange late nights, he always had a reason. Work, meetings, old friends, business problems, every explanation was possible. That was what made it dangerous. Nothing was impossible. Until the folder appeared, the papers inside were financial documents, bank statements, apartment payments, receipts. At first, we thought someone had stolen his identity. That was the first explanation, the easiest one. My father grabbed the folder quickly. "Give me that," he said, not angry, afraid. Sophia noticed. I noticed too. "What is this?" Sophia asked. "It's nothing." Nobody believes nothing when someone says it like a warning. My father left the room. That was when everything changed. Sophia called me that night. Her voice was quiet. "Isabella, did you know your father owned another apartment?" I remember looking at the ceiling. No, because I truly didn't. The next morning, we searched through the documents. The apartment existed. The payments existed. But the name connected to it was not a company. It was a person. Isabella Delaney. A woman neither of us knew. At least that was what my father wanted us to believe. When we confronted him, he admitted he knew her, but only as a friend. That was his first mistake, because the documents were not from a friendship. They showed years of payments, years of hidden choices. Sophia asked him the question I was too afraid to ask. "Are you having an affair?" My father looked at her, and for a moment I saw something I had never seen before. Not confidence, not control, panic. I can explain. Those words destroyed something before the explanation even arrived. The affair was real. My father had been living another life for years. Isabella Delaney was not a recent mistake. She was a secret chapter, a chapter my father had protected while telling us he was building a future with Sophia. But then something unexpected happened. Sophia did not leave immediately. Everyone expected her to, even me. Instead, she became quiet, too quiet. She started asking different questions. Not "why did you do this?" but "when did you decide I was not worth telling?" That question stayed in the air because betrayal was not only about what happened, It was about what someone chose to hide. My father said he loved Sophia, and the painful part was that I believed he did. That made everything worse. He was not a stranger who destroyed a family. He was my father, a man who could love someone and still hurt them, a man who could be kind one day and dishonest the next, a man I wanted to defend and blame at the same time. Then Sophia found another document, a document that changed the story again. The apartment was not just a place where my father met Isabella. It was where Isabella lived with a child I had never heard about. My first thought was that my father had another family, another daughter, another life. The betrayal felt endless. When Sophia asked him about the child, my father finally broke, and the truth was not what anyone expected. The child was not his. Years earlier, Isabella had been his employee. She was struggling after leaving an abusive relationship. My father helped her financially. Then he became emotionally involved. He told himself he was saving someone, but somewhere along the way, saving turned into attachment. Attachment turned into secrecy, and secrecy became a double life. He was not hiding another family. He was hiding the person he had become while trying to be someone else. That did not make him innocent. It only made the truth more complicated. Sophia packed her things 3 days later. My father begged her to stay. I made one terrible choice, he said. Sophia looked at him. No, Kevin, you made hundreds. She pointed toward the folder. Every payment, every lie, every time you looked me in the eyes and decided I didn't deserve the truth. Then she left. The family split after that. Holidays became uncomfortable. Phone calls became shorter. People chose sides. Some relatives blamed Sophia for leaving. Others blamed my father for destroying everything. I blame both of them sometimes. Sophia for not seeing what was happening. My father for making me question every memory I had. Months passed. Then came the final truth. The one nobody expected. My father had kept the apartment documents because he was preparing to leave. Not to leave Sophia, to leave all of us. He had planned to disappear before anyone discovered the truth. He had already purchased a one-way ticket. When we found out, I understood something painful. The affair was not the beginning of the betrayal. It was the symptom. My father had been running from himself for years. He wanted a different life because he hated the person he had become. But instead of changing, he hid, and hiding destroyed everything. The last time I saw him before he moved away, we stood outside the old family house. I'm sorry, he said. 2 words, too small for what happened. I know, I replied, because I believed he meant it. But regret does not rebuild what was broken. It only proves someone finally understands the damage. Sophia and I still talk. Not every day, not like before. Some relationships survive, but they do not return to their original shape. My father calls sometimes. I answer sometimes, and sometimes I let it ring. The folder is gone now, but I still remember the sound it made when it hit the floor. A small noise, almost nothing. Yet it was enough to open a door my family had spent years trying to keep closed. And behind that door was not just a secret, it was the truth about who we all were when nobody was watching. The package was sitting on Nathaniel Wright's kitchen table when he came home, and the first thing he noticed was not the box itself. It was his sister Clara Sterling's face. She had been laughing 5 seconds earlier, telling their mother Cassandra Hughes about a ridiculous mistake at work. Then Nathaniel placed the small brown package on the table, and Clara stopped moving completely. Not confused, not surprised, afraid. The package had no sender, no return address, no note. Only one thing was written on the label in black ink, for the person who still remembers. Nathaniel looked at Clara. Do you know what this is? She stared at the box as if it had opened itself. No, she whispered. But Nathaniel knew his sister, and for the first time in his life he realized Clara was lying before she even finished speaking. 6 months earlier, Nathaniel believed his life was finally becoming stable. At 32, he had spent years trying to repair things he never broke. After their father died, he became the person who kept the family together. He helped their mother with bills, handled repairs around the house, and quietly gave up opportunities because someone always needed him. He never complained, but he carried a quiet fear that nobody really needed him, that people only remembered him when something went wrong. His relationship with Clara had always been complicated. She was younger, more confident, and better at hiding her struggles. When they were children, Nathaniel protected her from everything. When they became adults, he sometimes felt she had learned how to protect herself without him. Still, he loved her. That was why he trusted her. That was why the package hurt. Nathaniel had recently started dating Cassandra's neighbor, Elena Brooks. It was still new, still fragile, the kind of relationship where every small moment felt important. Elena made him feel seen. She noticed when he was tired. She remembered things he casually mentioned weeks earlier. She made him believe that maybe he did not have to spend his entire life fixing everyone else's problems. But there was one thing bothering him. Whenever Clara visited, Elena became unusually quiet. Nathaniel noticed. He ignored it. He had spent too many years choosing peace over uncomfortable questions. Then the package arrived. That evening, Clara insisted they open it together. Nathaniel found that strange. Why would someone afraid of a package want to open it? Inside was a simple envelope and a small silver key. The letter contained only one sentence. Ask your sister where the money went. The room became silent. Cassandra looked from Nathaniel to Clara. What money? Clara immediately stood up. This is some kind of joke. But her voice was too fast. Nathaniel picked up the letter again. What money, Clara? She avoided his eyes. Nothing. That answer stayed in his mind all night because nothing had never sounded heavier. The next morning, Nathaniel started searching. Not because he wanted to accuse his sister, because he wanted to prove the package was wrong. He checked old family documents. He reviewed messages. He looked through old conversations about their father's estate. Then he found something he was not supposed to see. A withdrawal from a family account. A large one. The date was 3 years earlier, right after their father died. The person who approved it was Clara. Nathaniel felt something inside him collapse. He called her. Why didn't you tell me? There was a long pause. Then Clara said quietly, because you would have tried to fix it. That's not an answer. No, it's the truth. She refused to explain more. That made everything worse. Over the next few days, Nathaniel began noticing details he had ignored before. Clara changed the subject whenever their father was mentioned. She became defensive whenever money came up. And Elena suddenly stopped answering his messages. When Nathaniel finally reached her, she sounded exhausted. Your sister came to see me. His stomach tightened. When? A few weeks ago. Why? Another silence. She asked me questions about you. What kind of questions? Elena hesitated. Questions people ask when they are trying to find out whether someone is trustworthy. Nathaniel felt betrayed twice. First by Clara, then by Elena for keeping it secret. That night he confronted his sister. Did you talk to Elena about me? Clara looked away. Yes. Why? Because I needed to know something. What? If she was with you because she loved you? Or because she knew about the money? Nathaniel froze. What are you talking about? Clara's expression changed. For the first time, she looked less like someone hiding something and more like someone carrying something too heavy. The money wasn't stolen. Nathaniel stared at her. Then what was it? Clara finally told him part of the story. After their father died, she discovered he had left behind serious financial problems, debts nobody knew about, threats from people demanding repayment. Clara had used money from the estate to settle those debts. She had hidden it because their mother was already grieving and Nathaniel was preparing to leave for a career opportunity. She thought she was protecting everyone, but there was something she still refused to say. Who sent the package? Nathaniel asked. Clara looked toward the window. I don't know. He knew she was lying again. The mystery became impossible to ignore. Nathaniel traced the package details and found a shipping record. The sender information was intentionally hidden, but the payment method was not. Someone had paid for it using a card connected to an old family account. A card only 3 people knew existed: Nathaniel, Clara, and Cassandra, his mother. That discovery changed everything. He went to Cassandra's house that night. "Mom, did you send something to me?" Cassandra looked at him for a long moment, then she sat down. "I hoped you would never find out this way." Nathaniel felt the room become smaller. "What did you do?" Cassandra reached into a drawer and pulled out an old folder. Inside were documents. Not about Clara, about their father. Nathaniel read the first page, and everything he believed changed. The money Clara took had not been for their father's debts. It had been to protect Nathaniel. Years earlier, when Nathaniel was offered his dream job in another city, their father secretly planned to ruin the opportunity. He believed Nathaniel should stay and carry the family responsibilities. Clara discovered it. She found evidence that their father had manipulated Nathaniel's career and controlled money meant for him. The withdrawal was not theft, it was Clara moving money away from their father's control. But there was another truth. The package was not sent to expose Clara. It was sent because Cassandra had finally discovered something Clara had hidden. Clara had spent years pretending she took the money because she was brave, because she was protecting everyone. But the real reason was more painful. She was ashamed. She had been angry at their father. She had hated him for what he did to Nathaniel, and part of her wanted him to lose control. She did the right thing for the wrong reasons. Then she carried that guilt alone. Cassandra sent the package because she believed Nathaniel deserved the truth. But she also wanted him to see something else. Clara was not the person who betrayed the family, she was the person who had been silently breaking herself trying to protect it. Nathaniel confronted his sister one final time. "Why didn't you tell me?" Clara wiped her eyes. "Because you look at people you love and only see what you can save. That's not true." "Yes, it is." She smiled sadly. "And I knew if you knew everything, you would forgive me before I learned how to forgive myself." Nathaniel had imagined this moment differently. He thought he would be angry. He thought he would feel justice. Instead, he felt empty. Because nobody had been innocent. His sister lied. His mother hid the truth. His father had caused wounds nobody wanted to discuss. And Nathaniel realized the family he had spent years protecting had never been the family he thought it was. Months later, things were quieter. Nathaniel and Clara spoke again, but not like before. The easy trust was gone. It had to be rebuilt. Eleanor stayed, but their relationship changed too. They stopped pretending everything was simple. One evening, Nathaniel found the empty package box still sitting in his closet. He almost threw it away. Almost. Instead, he placed the silver key inside. A reminder of the moment everything he believed about his family disappeared, and everything he refused to see finally opened. The package had arrived without a name, but somehow it had revealed every name that mattered. The first time my father went silent after hearing a name, I knew something inside my family had already broken. Not because he looked guilty, because he looked afraid. We were sitting at the dinner table when Adrian mentioned Claire Whitmore, an old family friend who had known us for years. My father, Edward Mitchell, dropped his fork, just for a second, but it was enough. Everyone else kept talking, everyone else continued eating, but I watched my father stare at his plate like the answer to something impossible was written there. I had spent years believing I understood my family. I was a mother, a wife, a daughter. I was the person who remembered birthdays, kept old photographs, and tried to make sure nobody felt forgotten. But I was also the person who ignored the smallest signs because I wanted peace more than truth. My father was not a perfect man. He could be stubborn. He hated admitting mistakes. He carried himself like someone who always had control. But he was my father. And I loved him. That was why what happened hurt so much. The strange thing was that the person who helped reveal the truth was someone I trusted. Someone who had sat in my home. Someone who knew exactly where my family was vulnerable. Adrian Hayes was my brother. Growing up, we were completely different. I was the emotional one, the person who felt everything too deeply. Adrian was quieter. He watched people before trusting them. When our parents struggled financially, Adrian was the one who noticed the tension before anyone explained it. He always told me one thing. People show you who they are. You just have to pay attention. I never thought those words would describe our own father. For years, our family had one constant outside of blood, a friendship. Lena Parker had been my father's closest friend for almost 20 years. She was around during birthdays, holidays, and family celebrations. My mother trusted her, I trusted her. She knew stories about us that even relatives did not know. She knew my father's habits, his fears, his weaknesses, and because she knew him so well, nobody questioned how often she was around. That was the first mistake. The first crack appeared slowly. My father started changing, small things. He became defensive when his phone rang. He stopped mentioning certain conversations. He seemed distracted even when he was sitting right in front of us. My mother noticed. I noticed. But everyone found explanations: stress, work, age, problems he did not want to discuss. The human mind is good at protecting itself. Sometimes it creates comfortable answers when the truth is too painful. Then came the dinner, the name, the silence. After Adrian mentioned Lena, my father suddenly left the room. Not dramatically, not angrily, he just walked away. That bothered me more. When I asked him later, he smiled, too quickly. Nothing happened. You are imagining things. I wanted to believe him. I really did, because the alternative meant accepting something I was not ready to accept. A few days later, my mother received a message meant for someone else. It was only 3 words. Are you okay? No name, no explanation. But my mother knew exactly who it was from. Lena, the woman who had spent years sitting beside her, the woman who knew every detail of our lives. My mother did not cry. That scared me. She simply put the phone down and said, I need to know the truth. That was the moment our family changed. We started looking, not because we wanted to destroy anyone, because we needed to understand what had already been happening. We found small things: coffee receipts, messages deleted too quickly, a calendar entry that made no sense. Nothing was enough alone. Together, they became impossible to ignore. Then Adrian found something hidden in an old storage box: a photograph. My father and Lena together, years earlier, before my mother knew anything. But the date on the back changed everything. They had not recently become close. They had been hiding something for years. When I confronted my father, he did not deny knowing her. He said the words people say when they are trying to make something sound smaller. It wasn't like that. I hated those words because they were not a denial. They were an attempt to control the meaning. What was it then? I asked. My father looked at me, and for the first time I saw him as someone who was scared of losing everything. Not as a father, just as a person. I made mistakes. That answer destroyed something inside me. Because mistakes happen once, choices happen repeatedly. The affair came out. My father had betrayed my mother with someone who had been welcomed into our family. But then came the part nobody expected. Lena was not the person who started the betrayal. She was not innocent, but she was not the entire story either. The deeper we looked, the more complicated it became. Years earlier, my mother and father had almost separated. My mother never told us. My father had been dealing with a personal crisis. And during that time, Lena became the person he talked to, the person who listened, the person who made him feel understood. A friendship slowly crossed a line they both pretended they did not see. My father had convinced himself that because he was unhappy, he deserved comfort. Lena convinced herself that because she loved him, the damage was already done anyway. Both were wrong, but both were human. The hardest part was realizing betrayal rarely arrives wearing a villain's face. Sometimes it arrives as someone who knows exactly how to make you feel safe. My mother asked me to make a choice, not between loving her and loving my father, between protecting the family image and exposing the truth. I hated that choice because no answer would leave everyone whole. In the end, I told the truth. I showed my mother everything we found. I told Adrian everything, and I confronted Lena. She cried, not because she was caught, because she finally understood what she had destroyed. I never wanted to hurt your family, she said. I looked at her. But you knew you could. She had no answer. That was the hardest moment, not the anger. The silence afterward. My parents divorced 6 months later. The family gatherings stopped. The old photographs stayed in boxes. The house where we celebrated birthdays became a place nobody wanted to visit. My father lost more than a marriage. He lost the version of himself everyone believed in. Years later, he called me. His voice sounded older. I wish I could change what happened. I believed him. That was the painful part. I believed he regretted it. But regret does not erase consequences. Lena disappeared from our lives. My mother rebuilt hers slowly. Adrian moved away but still called me every week, and my father remained someone I loved from a distance. The final truth I discovered came much later. A letter from Lena. I almost threw it away. Inside was something I never expected. She admitted my father had tried to end things years before, but every time he returned, it was because he was afraid of losing the secret life he had created. The affair was not a moment of weakness. It was a life built on small betrayals. One choice, then another, then another. My father did not lose his family because of one terrible night. He lost it because he spent years believing nobody would ever find the truth. The last time I saw him, he stood outside my house holding an old family photo. "We were happy once," he said. I looked at the picture. We were. And that was the saddest part. Because some memories remain beautiful, even after the people inside them have changed forever. My father drove away that evening, not as a monster, not as the man I thought he was, just as someone who finally understood that the hardest thing to lose is not a person. It is the trust that made them family. The first charge was only 743. That was the reason I ignored it. A small number does not look dangerous. It does not look like a warning. It looks like a mistake. But then another charge appeared. $12.19. Then 860. Different days, different descriptions. Always small enough to explain away. Until I realized the numbers were not random. They were a trail, and the person who told me I was imagining things was the same person who had created the trail. Spencer Everett was my best friend's husband. For years, I thought he was one of the most honest people I knew. That was the strange part about betrayal. It rarely comes from someone you already distrust. It comes from someone who knows exactly why you trust them. I met Spencer through my business partner, Daniel. We built a small design company from nothing. Long nights, cheap coffee, big dreams. Spencer was always around. He was the person who brought food during late work sessions, the person who remembered birthdays, the person everyone described as dependable. I believed that too. When Daniel became sick and stepped away from the business temporarily, Spencer offered to help manage some financial tasks. "Just until things stabilize," he said. I agreed, because I knew him, or at least I thought I did. The first strange thing happened 3 months later. I noticed tiny payments from our company account, not enough to trigger panic, not enough to look like theft, just small expenses. A subscription here, a payment there, a service I did not recognize. When I asked Spencer, he laughed. "You're becoming paranoid." He said it casually, almost joking. That bothered me more than anger would have, because he made my concern feel unreasonable. So I stopped asking. That was my mistake. Weeks later, I saw another charge. The same pattern, different amount, different location. I started keeping notes, not because I wanted to accuse Spencer, because I wanted to prove myself wrong. I wanted the explanation to be simple: a software mistake, a billing error, anything. Then I found something strange. Every small payment happened on days when Spencer was alone with access to our accounts. Still, I needed proof. I checked old records, and that was when the first surprise appeared. The payments did not begin recently. They started years earlier, before Spencer helped our company, before he became someone I trusted. That changed everything. I confronted him again. "Why didn't you tell me about these?" He looked annoyed. Because they are not important. Then why hide them? His expression changed, only for a second, but I saw it. Fear, not anger. Fear. That was when I knew the charges were not the story. They were only the beginning. I started looking deeper. I discovered an old business name connected to several payments, a company that no longer existed, a company connected to Spencer's past. When I asked him about it, he became quiet. Finally, he admitted he had owned another business years before. It failed, he said. That's all? He looked away. Yes, but it was not all. The second surprise came when I contacted an old accountant. She told me Spencer's previous company did not simply fail. It collapsed after accusations of financial misconduct. No criminal charges, no dramatic courtroom, just damaged relationships and people who stopped trusting him. I felt sick. Not because he had a difficult past. Everyone has mistakes. Because he had looked me in the eyes and let me believe he had no past at all. I gave him one chance. I asked him directly, "Are you using our company money to fix something from before?" He said no, immediately, too immediately. Then the biggest discovery came. The small charges were not personal purchases. They were payments to people from his old company, people he owed, people who had threatened to expose him. Spencer was secretly paying them. He was not building a new life. He was covering the remains of his old one. When I confronted him, he finally stopped pretending. I was trying to protect everyone. I almost laughed. By lying, he looked broken. I thought I could solve it before anyone knew. That was the most painful answer, because I believed he thought he was protecting us. But he was protecting himself. The business partnership collapsed after that. Daniel returned and found out everything. The trust between us was gone. The hardest conversation was not with Spencer, it was with myself. I had spent months defending someone because admitting I was wrong meant admitting I ignored the signs. I wanted to believe good people could make mistakes. I did not want to believe some people could keep making choices while pretending they were helping. Then came the final revelation, the one nobody expected. The old company failure was not the reason Spencer was desperate. The debt was not the reason. The real reason was someone from his past. A former partner had discovered that Spencer had hidden money from the old business before it collapsed. The small payments were not only repayment, they were silence. Spencer had been paying someone to keep a secret buried, a secret about why his previous company truly disappeared. He had not just made a mistake. He had built a life around avoiding the consequences. When everything became public, Spencer tried to explain. He apologized. He admitted everything. But the damage had already happened. Our company separated. Friends chose sides. People who once trusted Spencer questioned every memory they had of him. That was the strange thing. The truth did not destroy his reputation. The truth revealed that the reputation was already fragile. Months later, Spencer contacted me. He did not ask for another chance. He only said he was sorry. I believed he was sorry. That was the hardest part. Because forgiveness and trust are different things. I could forgive the person he became, but I could not pretend the person I trusted had never existed. The last time I saw him was at a small coffee shop. He looked different, older, quiet. "You were right to walk away," he said. I looked at him. "I didn't walk away because I hated you." He nodded. "I know. I left that meeting knowing something had changed forever. The tiny charges that once looked meaningless had opened a door. Behind it was not just missing money. It was a hidden past, a person who spent years trying to outrun himself, and a friendship that ended not because of one terrible moment, but because hundreds of small choices finally became impossible to ignore. The sentence Jenna Hale heard through the half-closed door lasted less than 10 seconds, but those 10 seconds changed the way she looked at 7 years of marriage. She can't know yet. If Jenna finds out now, everything will fall apart. Her husband Darren's voice was quiet. Too quiet. Jenna stood in the hallway holding a basket of clean laundry, completely still. She did not hear the rest. She did not need to. Because the sentence was already inside her mind, repeating itself. Who was she? What was Jenna not supposed to know? And why did Darren sound afraid? For years, Jenna believed she knew her husband better than anyone. She knew how he drank his coffee. She knew he hated driving at night. She knew the way he smiled when he was trying not to laugh. She knew the small habits that made him feel like home. That was why the silence afterward hurt more than the words. Darren was not confused when he saw her. He was not surprised. He looked guilty. Jenna had always wanted a simple life. Growing up, she watched her parents fight over things they never admitted. She promised herself she would never build a marriage where people hid behind polite conversations. She wanted honesty, not perfection, just honesty. When she married Darren, she thought she finally found it. Darren was patient and thoughtful. When Jenna lost her job during a difficult year, he stayed beside her and told her they would get through it together. When her mother became sick, Darren was the person who drove her to every appointment. He was the person everyone trusted, including Rachel Sterling. Rachel was Darren's longtime friend and the wife of his closest colleague. She had been part of their lives for years. Family dinners, holiday gatherings, birthday celebrations. Jenna never saw Rachel as a threat. She saw her as family. That was why the first strange signs felt so confusing. Darren started changing, not dramatically, small things. He began leaving the room to answer calls. He stopped talking about his day. He became unusually careful with his words. When Jenna asked if something was wrong, he always had an explanation. Work is stressful. I'm just tired. I don't want you worrying. Those answers sounded loving, but slowly they started feeling like walls. Jenna tried to ignore the feeling. She told herself every marriage had difficult seasons. She told herself love meant giving someone space. Then she heard the conversation. After that night, everything looked different. Jenna asked Darren directly, "What were you talking about with Rachel?" His face changed. Only for a moment, but she saw it. Fear. Rachel? Nothing important. Then why did you say I couldn't know? Darren went silent. That silence became her answer. The next day, Rachel came over unexpectedly. She looked exhausted, not angry, not defensive, just tired. I know you heard something, Rachel said. Jenna felt her heart drop. Then tell me what it means. Rachel looked away. I can't. That answer made everything worse. Jenna started searching for explanations. At first, the easiest explanation was betrayal. Maybe Darren and Rachel were hiding an affair, maybe the late calls, the secrecy, the strange behavior, maybe it all had one painful answer. Jenna hated that thought, because she did not want to lose her marriage. She wanted to understand it. Then she found something else, a folder in Darren's desk. Medical documents, appointments, test results, but not his name, Rachel's. Jenna felt confused. Why would Darren hide Rachel's illness? Why would he risk destroying his marriage for someone else's secret? When she confronted him, Darren finally admitted Rachel was sick, but he refused to explain further. She asked me not to tell anyone. Anyone? Jenna's voice shook. I'm your wife. I know. Then why am I the last person to know? Darren had no answer. That was the moment Jenna realized the problem was bigger than the secret itself. It was the fact that he had decided she could not handle the truth. Days passed. The truth slowly became more complicated. Rachel was not just hiding an illness. She was hiding how serious it had become. Darren had promised to protect her privacy. He believed he was helping, but his promise created another betrayal. Jenna began remembering every strange moment. The cancelled dinners, the sudden trips, the conversations that stopped when she entered the room. Every memory felt different, like she was watching her own life from outside. Then came the biggest discovery. Rachel finally told Jenna the truth. Years earlier, before Jenna met Darren, Rachel had been diagnosed with a serious condition. Darren had been the person who helped her through the worst period of her life. Not romantically, not secretly, just as a friend. But there was something Rachel had never told anyone. She had once been in love with Darren. She never acted on it. She never told him. But when her illness returned, she reached out to the one person she believed would understand. Darren helped her, and then he hid it. Not because he was cheating, because he knew how it would look. He knew Jenna would see another woman, secret conversations, and emotional closeness. And he was right. But hiding the truth created exactly the damage he feared. Jenna was devastated. Not because Darren loved someone else, because he trusted another person with his honesty before trusting his own wife. The confrontation between them was quiet. That made it worse. "I was trying to protect you," Darren said. Jenna looked at him. "No, you were trying to protect everyone from the truth." Darren looked broken. "I didn't want you to hate Rachel." "I don't hate Rachel," Jenna's voice cracked. "I hate that you decided for me what I could handle." For the first time, Darren understood. The secret was not the illness. The secret was the distance he created while trying to be kind. Months passed. Jenna and Darren stayed together, but they were not the same. Forgiveness did not erase the wound. Rachel's health continued to decline, and Jenna eventually became one of the people who supported her. That surprised everyone, including Jenna, because anger was easier when Rachel was just a symbol of betrayal. But Rachel was a person who was scared, a person who had spent years carrying something painful alone. Then came the final truth, the one Darren had never admitted. The conversation Jenna overheard was not about Rachel's illness. It was about Jenna. Rachel had discovered that Jenna had a serious health risk of her own from old medical records and had asked Darren to tell her. Darren refused, not because he wanted to hide Rachel, because he was terrified. He had already watched one person suffer. He could not imagine watching his wife hear frightening news too. So he delayed, he protected, he covered up, and in doing so, he made Jenna feel like a stranger inside her own marriage. The truth was not that Darren betrayed Jenna with another woman. The truth was that his fear of losing her made him lose her trust first. Their marriage survived, but something remained broken. A reminder that love and fear can sometimes look almost identical from the outside. Years later, Jenna still remembered that hallway, the laundry basket in her hands, the half-closed door, the sentence that changed everything. She forgave Darren, but she never forgot the moment she realized the person trying to protect her was also the person keeping her in the dark, and that was the scar their marriage carried forever. After the truth came out, Jenna noticed something painful about herself. She had spent so much time searching for the person who hurt her that she almost missed the person who was hurting too. Darren had not been a perfect husband. That became impossible to ignore. He had made choices for her. He had hidden conversations. He had believed silence was a form of protection, but he had also been carrying fear that he did not know how to handle. For a long time, Jenna wondered if forgiving him meant pretending nothing happened. It did not. There were nights when she looked at him and remembered the hallway, the door, the whisper, the feeling that her entire marriage had become a mystery. Darren knew rebuilding trust would take longer than saying sorry, so he stopped trying to explain everything away. He answered questions even when the answers were uncomfortable. He stopped deciding what Jenna should know. Slowly, the walls between them started coming down. Not completely. Some cracks remain visible even after something is repaired. Rachel eventually moved away to focus on her health. Before leaving, she met Jenna one last time. "I never wanted to become the reason your marriage was damaged," Rachel said. Jenna looked at her for a long moment. "I know." That was the strange part. Jenna did know. The anger had faded into something more complicated. Sadness, understanding, acceptance. Rachel had been afraid. Darren had been afraid. And somehow, all that fear created the exact pain they were trying to prevent. Years later, Jenna still thought about that night. She thought about how close she came to believing the worst version of the story. She almost lost Darren because she thought he had chosen another woman over her. But the truth was different. He had chosen silence over honesty, and sometimes silence can wound just as deeply. Their marriage continued, but it carried a memory, not of betrayal through romance, of betrayal through secrecy, the kind that happens when someone believes they are protecting you but forgets that trust requires being allowed to face the truth. Jenna never wanted a perfect husband. She only wanted the person beside her to let her stand beside him when life became difficult. And that was the one thing Darren had to learn after everything was already broken.